your body is now coming to a point where it's saying, okay, like that is not working anymore. I don't feel like a human being. And it forces us to change mindsets. It forces us to interact differently, more compassionately with ourselves, and to interact differently with the world. And that's a good thing.
Welcome back to the Push Pause to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Rodersheimer. On this podcast, we explore health from the inside out, starting with the foundations, connection, and the conditions that allow the body to heal. And I think today's guest is going to fit right in. Today we have Lauren Callahan, who is a licensed therapist, health and performance coach, and founder of the Spark Framework, which is a holistic approach designed to help women build sustainable energy, resilience, and well-being. Yes, sign me up. Drawing on her background in mental health, behavior change, gut health, and performance coaching, Lauren helps women move beyond burnout and create lasting health from the inside out. Her own journey from a sedentary lifestyle to becoming an ultra runner and Ironman athlete gives her a unique perspective on what's possible when we align mindset, habits, and physical health. Lauren is passionate about helping women thrive in midlife by creating health that supports both high performance and a vibrant, fulfilling life. Well, thank you. Welcome, Lauren. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I do want to throw in real quick that I am not a licensed therapist anymore. That
Perfect. That's your former life, but you can always draw on that background, right?
And I do, yeah, and it's actually a really, really important part of what I do now. A huge part of the process of me transitioning into the nutrition and integrative wellness space. But sorry, yeah, wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that one.
Thank you. Yes. We don't. That's not what we're here to. Yes. Thank you for clarifying. So, I think our listeners and I know when I read your bio, I'm like just dying to know what inspired you to go from a therapist to health and performance coach to becoming an ultra runner, like from a sedentary lifestyle. So, what was happening in your own life that led you down that path? And can you just tell us your story?
Yeah, for sure. So several years ago, probably, I'm 45 now, so in my late 30s, I began saying I need to do something, right? I was sitting all the time between my studies, just a largely sedentary lifestyle. So I need to do something. So I did start walking slash jogging about a mile a day. Fast forward, yeah, this past March, I attempted to run 200 miles through the woods. I made it 140. But yeah, I like to remind people of the starting point when I hear folks say all the time, I could never do that. And I say, well, that was me. That was me not too long ago. Um, but yeah, the transition. So I was working as a therapist and at the same time had progressed in running and really wanted to run a marathon. And I just had my heart set on being able to run a marathon. And I actually tried for 4 years and could never do it, just for various reasons, usually revolving around inflammation, recovery, and a repetitive knee issue. I could never finish the marathon. I had tried everything you could put, like any suggestion that somebody could, well, have you tried that? Yeah, I had. But the one thing that I had not was gut health. And I got some marketing email on gut health and went down a rabbit hole. And for 6 months time really worked to improve my gut health, made it really a laser focus. I can be kind of obsessive. um, but at the end of that 6 months, I actually did go out and finally run my first marathon. So gut health hugely helped with that. And really just a few months after that, I went out and I did a 50-mile ultra. And then
Wow.
just a couple months after that, I completed my first Ironman, and then I did another 50-mile ultra, and then another Ironman, and then I did a 100K run, and that was all within 1 year's time. So I was obviously a fanatic. Oh my God, gut health can help anybody, right?
Yes.
But
What
the
a
thing that
transition. Yeah,
yeah,
transformation. Yeah.
yes, it was hugely helpful with energy, recovery, inflammation, and all the things. But honestly, the thing that really surprised me and really hooked me into this was that when I tested my gut health, that was when I learned that serotonin is actually a gut metabolite, and that 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. And if you could give me a grade, I had an F. My serotonin was so low. And I thought, oh my God, I'm a therapist. I help people every day with depression and mood. And here I am with very much an uphill battle. And I could feel it. I didn't need the numbers to tell me that. I felt it, right? And so over that next 6 months, as I improved my gut health, I watched and felt my serotonin levels go up naturally and get to that optimal range where they needed to be. And I felt it. And I didn't know that serotonin and sleep were directly connected. Melatonin is this
Yes.
downstream metabolite. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, I was sleeping at night and I had no idea that it was a problem. Like it was one of those things you just sort of like ease into and you're like, oh, I'm just in midlife and oh, I'm not sleeping because I have anxiety. I guess I need more therapy, right? Like that was
Yeah.
my lens. And then here I am. I just started sleeping again. I thought, oh, this is amazing. I had no idea. And
Wow.
so anytime somebody came into my office, my therapy office,
Sure.
I was like, yes, let's work on trauma and mood and thoughts and all the thing, but how's your gut health? This could be so much easier. And that is the story of what started my career
Wow.
transition. I wanted to
That's
help people
amazing.
in that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you and I are similar in that way because once I saw the light of what functional medicine could do for me
Mm,
in reversing my rheumatoid arthritis, I was like, okay, everybody needs to listen. Let me tell you
yeah.
how to, yeah, dive into functional medicine. So, and a huge aspect of functional medicine is gut health. So I talk about gut health a lot, but I know, I think the listener's probably curious. I'm curious what did you do to help your gut health? Are there some big, I'm sure there was a lot, but are there some like simple things that really just help move the needle a lot for your gut health that you didn't know you were missing?
For sure, yeah. And I would certainly tell anyone, yes, I mean, gut health is as unique as you are. And so it is a very individual process, but there are some very important things that just about everybody can do that will move the needle for anybody. Just about, right? With some exceptions, of course. But the number one thing that was true for me and that have found true for my clients now is simply to have more fiber. And so recently I've developed this whole framework called Fiber First, just teaching people how to incorporate fiber more into their life. Because the fact is, about 97% of Americans maybe get about half of the amount of fiber that they need every day. And it is one of the most powerful things you can do to improve your gut health. It feeds your gut. Fiber is what feeds your gut. And I think this is hugely important for our culture and society today for a number of reasons. One, just in general, we love our animal-based products, right, which have zero fiber in them. And also, I would say that women in particular, when they encounter any sort of issue with health, hormones, energy, mood, anything, especially in midlife, one of the first things that we are going to get asked is, okay, well, are you having enough protein? And the next simple step for women who are often having digestive issues, they're feeling bloated, they also have no time, they're busy, is okay, protein shake, right? Which can disrupt gut health. They often usually have no fiber. And so this is a missing piece I find. It was a missing piece for me, a missing piece for so many of my clients to have more fiber, to get them from whole foods.
Yes.
This is exponentially helpful for your gut health.
Wonderful. Yes, because the fiber is going to feed all of those little bacteria in there that we want to flourish and help make our serotonin, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
I love, yes, bacteria. I mean, I think we could all stand to get more comfortable with the word bacteria instead of
yes,
being scared of it. It's a good
yeah.
thing. We want bacteria in our gut, and we have to feed it.
Yes,
Feed
yes, I
them.
love that. And today's day and age, so much of it is ultra processed and packaged, and those things, this fiber stripped out, right, of
Yeah.
those ultra processed foods as well. So, and fiber first, I think I like the saying, and I think you're probably leaning into, okay, remember your fiber, like put fiber top of mind. I also think that eating fiber at the beginning of the meal can really help with the balancing of blood sugar and all the different things, instead of starting with the more of the processed carbs or things like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us, let's stay on fiber for just a minute longer,
Sure.
because you're right. So many of us are deficient or not even getting half of what we need. And so, what are some really big, easy ways to add? I mean, on some degrees is a little bit obvious, but what are some of the big wins? Like, how can we just gain some extra fiber in our day?
Sure. I think some standard recommendations you'll hear around fruits and vegetables, like get at least 5 colorful fruits and vegetables. That's really helpful. And so that's always a good reminder. I feel like the big thing that trips us up, though, is that when, protein is important, right? Like we do still need our protein, but I think it's a mindset around protein that we tend to think of protein as something completely separate from fiber. And again, when it comes from an animal-based product, it is. But when you're talking about plants, you can get fiber and protein in one. So, for example, beans, right? You have a fantastic combination of protein and fiber and healthy carbs, that sort of thing. Nuts and seeds, it is a combination of protein and fiber. So I get asked a lot, Lauren, I am pretty much exclusively plant-based, maybe with a few exceptions here and there. But I get asked all the time, well, where do you get your protein from? Well, you get it from plants, right? When we're talking about plants, it's not necessarily separate, right? So wrapping our mindset around the fact that you can get protein from sources that also have fiber helps, I think, with the problem that we run into of, okay, I've got to get my protein count, for the day. Well, now I don't have any room in my stomach for anything else. And so when you're getting your protein from plant-based sources, you alleviate a lot of that problem. For one thing, it's just more digestible, so it goes through your system much more easily, right? And so you're hungrier sooner, you have more room for other foods. And then also you have to be a little bit intentional here, but yeah, you more easily were able to get your protein and your healthy fats and healthy carbs like all in one, right? And all the micronutrients. So it's not so separate.
Okay, great. That's great. I would say, like, no one's ever going to feel worse, but, well, it's never a bad idea to add more vegetables
Yeah.
than plants, right? Plants are always a good choice. So I love this transformation you kind of had, and it's so powerful, your story of all the running you were able to do after you helped your gut. And tell us about your work with with women and burnout, and what does that, you want to create burnout proof wellness, which I love that term. Tell us what that looks like.
Yeah, so I feel like I want to say women, but this is really true for women and men. We're very much taught to, push through, right? Get your mindset right. Just have the right mindset, and you'll be able to accomplish whatever you need to. And I do believe that mindset is very important. I mean, again, like I was a therapist, I believe in mindset. I don't think anybody would disagree on that point. However, if the physiological building blocks are not there for you, your mindset, your resilience, your overall wellness is going to be an absolute uphill battle. So, when we talk about burnout, there are various statistics out there, but a general statistic that I've seen repetitively, is that at least 70% of Americans would say that they have been burned out, right? Like they're at the point of just wanting to burn it all to the ground, hopefully
Yeah.
figuratively, but that's the point where they're at. Well, we would look at that and think of that as a mental health sort of thing, right? Like it's stress, it's your ability, to be resilient, to adapt and cope to stress. What are your mental health tools that are going to help you through the stressful time so that you don't burn out? Well, what I'm seeing here is that those mental health tools are really nice, but they're kind of the icing on the cake, right? You will have an uphill battle if the physiological building blocks are not there. So in my work with people, it may seem disconnected, but I want to help you create the nutritional foundations, certainly the movement slash exercise slash training foundations, the sleep foundations in your life, so that you have a bigger capacity for dealing with the stress that is there. There are certainly things that you can probably do to cut things out, to pare things down, to change your own mindset and how you approach stressors that are there. But at the end of the day, for a lot of people, a lot of those stresses just aren't going to change, right? And so you being able to build your capacity to deal with them is what builds that burnout proof well-being.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. So and that's it. So much of what I speak about is just that foundation of the healthy lifestyle, the day in and day out, the choices and the way we can really fuel ourselves in more ways than just nutritionally to be able to have that fuel to use in our day before we reach burnout. But I'm curious, why do you think we've normalized burnout? Like I think especially among women, it's just like become the norm where, we just push past and take everything a little too far before we realize like maybe we need a wake up call to see it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And honestly, I think that it's so deeply ingrained in us culturally and spiritually and religiously and socially. I mean, I think there's a million different fronts that generationally have put this in us that we need to push through. And honestly, what I have found is that when I work with clients on more of like a longer term basis, more than just like a session or two, I can almost tell you like clockwork. If we work together for 3 months, around that 6 week mark is when we have moved past nutrition. Okay, like we know the things that we need to do, and we're on track to making them true habits in our lives. But really, that 6 week mark is usually about more saying, okay, let's talk about your practices around just self-care and self-love, around how you approach the world, around this mindset of I just need to push through. And again, I didn't really answer the question, but I feel like it comes from so many different ways. I can tell you, for me personally, I grew up in the southern Louisiana, right? So we've got the Bible Belt, we've got more southern kind of values. I mean, there are a lot of different things that are pushing or ingraining in me. You need to be good. Your worth revolves around you serving other people and caretaking for other people. That is your worth and value, right? And so this was a huge unlearning process for me, especially in midlife, of saying, well, actually, that's not true. And also,
Yeah.
I can better be present for the people in my life and for the world, for my community, by first prioritizing myself. Sounds really selfish. It's not. But by doing those acts of self-love for me. And honestly, those acts of self-love, they look different for everybody, but for one person over here that I work with, their act of self-love is that on a Sunday, no matter what, they're making their smoothies for the rest of the week. Right?
Perfect.
For another person, it is I am putting exercise in my calendar. It's up there with a doctor's appointment. And whatever you have going on, well, I've got an appointment and it's my exercise appointment.
I love that.
Right?
I love that.
Those just little acts of self-love allow you to be better present for everybody else, and it is the opposite of just trying to push through.
That's so true. I think you'll not, it's not a place you can sustain to continue to push through, or that mindset of my value is from when I give. There's a point where your cup is empty and then there's no more giving happening. So yeah, 100%. We have to pour back into ourselves, and then we can give a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it means, a lot of the women I work with, we have to look at, like, let's look at your calendar and what did you say yes to? And you're like, I don't really want to go to that meeting, or I didn't really want to volunteer for that thing, but I should, and so looking at those kinds of things and creating some space just to breathe in our day and be present, and not always doing what somebody else wants us to be doing all the time. So
Yeah, I had a fantastic moment with a client where, again, we uh, go in there expecting to, discover all the complicated nutritional things that we need to figure out and do. And honestly, like, one of her top 5 recommendations walking away from that session was, she used to make these very healthy smoothies every day. So this was just a part of, getting in her fruits and vegetables, right? Well, she stopped doing it because there was somebody else in the home that was sleeping during the day, and it was like part of their own bad habits, right? And she didn't want to wake them up. And, I kind of looked at her, she's like, I know. I know. And so by the end of the session, one of her top 5 recommendations was run that smoothie. Like, we're not worried about caretaking for other people in this scenario.
yeah.
You're going to prioritize you, your health, your food. I mean, honestly, the other person can stand to wake up. It's fine. Run the blender.
Yes. Or it's just a few minutes, right? Like, yeah, they'll go back to sleep if they need to.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. That's wonderful. So I think we spend a lot of time in our healthcare system, for sure, is just focused on trying to fix symptoms. And what, I'd love to get your take on what it looks like to actually create health.
It looks very proactive, and often it looks nothing like the symptoms. So, when we just very basically talk about, the pillars of health, right? Like we said a minute ago, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, right? Like it's so basic. It's, we know this, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it would be connected with several health outcomes that you can think of, and yet they are. And so when we prioritize that proactively, the symptoms often fix themselves. So I'll give an example. I had a client with a very severe skin rash that would come up repetitively, and severe enough that she was considering taking medication. Well, she actually didn't even tell me about this when we were working together. She just knew that she needed to improve her gut, and so she was being proactive, right? Like, what can I do just to be a healthier person, be more present for my kids, and better at work and all the things, right? And so we start working together, and about 6 weeks in, she said, Lauren, I never told you about this skin condition, but look, I was about to have to go on medication for it because it was so bad, and it has just disappeared. Like, she never made the connection that proactively, pursuing these, health pillars would have anything to do with a skin rash, but it did, right? And
Yes.
so this is, it's like, I understand when symptoms are there. Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, it becomes important and we want to deal with them, but
Yes.
also proactively pursuing health with our nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, we'd be amazed at the symptoms that end up fixing themselves.
Yes. I love that. I mean, it's all connected, right? Every system of the body is connected to every other system of the body. So you think you're just fixing your gut, but you're actually impacting everything else. Like, just like you had shared with all the different things that got better when you focused on your gut. I love that. And I think the lifestyle choices, the foundational work that you and I are both such proponents of, these 4 pillars of health, are just so crucial. They're not fancy. They're not sexy. They're not like the latest trend on TikTok, right? And so I think they don't get as much value. They don't get as much space as they deserve. So I'm very proud to have this space for us to just like highlight the beautiful outcomes that we can get in focusing on these things. So thank you for that, for sharing that. I would say a lot of times, clients will come to me and they'll be like, if you just fix this one thing, I'll be really happy. And so we build them that healthy foundation, and lo and behold, like the 17 other things that were barely bothering them, but they all go away too. It's so beautiful. So there's just so much power in that strong foundation. So yeah. And how do you know, or let's see, how do we know when we're pursuing health versus, I think maybe you've seen some of these, punishing ourselves in the name of health? Do you ever encounter that client? I know I do from time to time.
I do, yeah. Maybe say a couple things. One is you can notice it in the self-talk around it. So for example, I do hear a lot, well, I know what I should be doing. I'm just really lazy. And I'm like, no, let's stop there.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, especially when I'm doing something like gut health or epigenetic testing, I'll do that as well. You can see, in the data that, something is off in their gut health or different pathways that we just know their body is not producing serotonin and dopamine and things like that help you feel motivated. Like they're the physiological building blocks to feeling motivated. And so I can show them, look, it's right here on paper, right? Like, it's not you. This is not a character flaw.
No.
We need to build these foundations so that you can feel those things. But also, I guess, more directly to the self-punishment things. So first of all, I am guilty of overtraining, of being like obsessively pursuing a goal.
Yeah.
So there's that, okay? And also I just have a lot of grace for myself, and just, there are parts of me that need that, and then there are also parts of me that need a lot of space and rest and quiet. And honestly, I honor both of them, and I encourage my clients to do the same. I'm very much a believer, this is a lot of my background as a therapist too, that we have parts of us, and those parts they're not always on the same page, and that's fine. We can honor them and love them. You can have a part of you that wants to be first place at everything on the planet. And you can also have a part of you that wants to go outside and stare at trees and not talk to people. And that's okay. Let's honor both of those parts. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
In my mind, I see it as maybe balancing the parts, so that they both get to show up and maybe can check each other a little bit too.
And support one another too.
I would say I've seen a lot of clients. I've never been obsessive about exercise personally, but I have a lot of clients who, it's like the only thing they know. They think that if they ease off or let go, or there's been a little bit of weight gain, and so let me push harder with the exercise, and and it almost becomes like, oh, I had this cookie, I need to do X, Y, and Z to pay it off, right? Or to feel okay about that. And I just would say, I would love to share a lot of grace for that. And sometimes what I see is that there's a lot of healing and ultimately more energy to be able to do more exercise after there's a little bit of a step back for some repair work.
I love that. For those kind of situations, I feel like first of all, it's really important just to be really compassionate and curious with what they're experiencing, and not just us being compassionate and curious, but helping that person to get compassionate and curious toward their own parts that feel like they need to punish. Like, why is that? Like, why is there that feeling of, needing to punish yourself for eating a cookie or whatever? And sometimes just that compassionate curiosity in and of itself is so healing. It's so validating. It's like that part of us that feels that way, just being heard, right? Without judgment around that. Like, oh, you should, even us being like, oh, you shouldn't punish yourself. That almost can feel judgmental to a part that feels like it doesn't need to.
Exactly.
So just hearing it compassionately. I say it, like hearing that part of us, I guess, compassionately and curiously can go a long way. And the stepping back, I'm a huge believer in just every day having that whatever you want to call it, meditative kind of quiet time or breath work or something where you pause, where you pause and check in with yourself. Breathe, a lot of just deep breathing. That in and of itself can just physiologically help our bodies to calm down
So much.
and maybe not even feel that need to punish so much. It's almost like it invites more self-compassion.
I love that. Yes, just to take to be able to ground a minute and then come at it. I The other thing I would share is that I think our bodies are our wisest guides, and
Hmm.
they're always speaking to us, you know? So if you're going into a workout thinking, "Oh my gosh, I don't have any energy for this, but I'm going to push through anyway," versus, "Wow, that I feel so excited for my workout," or at the end of the workout I feel so invigorated. Like your body's going to always try to guide you, right? So the things that light you up and fill you with energy are all great things to reach for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if your body is really resisting that workout, yeah, I'd say it's important to check into that and honor that and listen to it, which I is hard for some folks because it feels like you're losing momentum and you're never going to want to come back to it. And I get that feeling for sure. But also, yeah, there's a lot of beauty in just giving your body space and listening to what it needs. And it's amazing how that can create a lot more momentum, maybe for the next day or the next workout.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, you and I think work a lot with women around midlife, and I think it's a time when I see women start to feel like they're losing themselves a little bit. And I wonder if your thoughts on like what opportunities do you see in this season of life rather than if you look on social media it looks like we're just doomed and it's going to suck and there's no joy to be had ever again, like, but I would like to debate that thought a little bit. Do you have any ideas on what's the opportunity in midlife?
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said that, and man, that's exactly it right there. It is an opportunity. I feel like the breakdown maybe that a lot of women will experience in midlife. But first of all, there's a lot of physiological foundation to
Hmm.
that. I
Yep.
love. I think when I discovered that the production of our estrogen as we get older moves from our ovaries to our adrenals, which are the
Yes.
same thing that are producing stress hormones. That was a huge eye opener for me. Oh my God. Okay, it's not just that I used to be really cool and could handle stress. It's that physiologically things changed and now the parts of me that are handling stress are competing, with other hormones and other systems, and it didn't used to be that way.
Yeah.
And for me, that was hugely freeing, right? Again, it's not a character flaw. It's not
Right.
like I just can't handle my stuff anymore, which is what I've heard over and over from other women. Is that physiologically things changed and are changing. And I think, my next question in that is, okay, well, is there a design flaw here? And I would say the answer is no. I think it's actually, maybe it's not so fun when you're experiencing it, but I think it's a really beautiful opportunity for us to do exactly what we were talking about a minute ago, and stop, like, get off the train of let me serve everybody and everything and everybody else, and let me caretake for the world, and let me always put myself aside because somebody else needs something right now. Your body is now coming to a point where it's saying, okay, like that is not working anymore. I don't feel like a human being. And it forces us to change mindsets. It forces us to interact differently, more compassionately with ourselves, and to interact differently with the world. And that's a good thing. And actually, to me, that is the point where we really are able to step into I guess I want to say our personal power in a way that we never have. And so, if you've ever heard that saying, break down for a breakthrough, I think that that's exactly what midlife for women can be. Allow that breakthrough allow that breakdown to become a breakthrough for you to truly step into, really living and feeling like a human being, and truly having a sense of inner power.
I love that. That's excellent. Yeah. And I think I love what you said about it kind of pulls us off like you're on the hamster wheel and there's no end in sight, right? But this midlife transition is going to kind of throw you off and make you take a look around and say, okay, is this working for me anymore? Do I need to shift this? And what do I want the second half of my life to look like? And just take stock and reevaluate and come up with like a reconnection really to you lose yourself on the hamster wheel, right? And in the serving and in the giving. So just kind of coming back to finding that connection to ourselves again can be a beautiful, powerful thing. So yeah, let's not fear it. And I would say too, Lauren, see if you agree with me, but if we've got the foundations really solid, though the physiological changes are a little smoother. Have you seen that?
Yes, 100%. Yes, 100%. I mean, certainly as a woman in midlife, I mean, you know, fluctuating hormones are at the forefront for us. And yes, just, you know, nutritionally, like creating those, you know, healthy, sustainable habits make that transition so much smoother. You know, I think when I see posts about like, you know, I ate this thing that we all know is like horrible for us. You know, I ate this thing, but you know, I'm like, we only live once, and I'm like, well, yeah, but like in your next post, when you're talking about like the horrible things you're feeling around like perimenopause or whatever, like we're not saying the same thing. Oh, we only live once, right? And the two are connected, right? So I just think that it's important to make those connections. Yeah, I mean, I think, but, well, I don't know. I don't want to go into do we only live once or not.
Yeah. That's for our next episode.
You know, I will say if, you know, my kids, you know, spent all day, you know, baking something beautiful and I would never eat this thing otherwise, will I have a couple bites? Absolutely. You know,
Sure.
but in general,
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm making choices for my future self, and I promise you, you get to a point where those are the choices that you want. It's not hard anymore. Like feeling good is so self-rewarding, right?
Oh,
That it does
yes.
not feel like you're missing out or, you know, you're missing out on life by making those healthy choices in what you eat and what you
Yeah.
do.
That's so true. It's hard, yeah. And so, yes, perfection is not our goal, but the more you put into that strong foundation, the smoother things tend to go. So I
Yeah.
love that. Um, if you could convince every woman listening to stop doing one thing and start doing one thing for her health, what would those be?
I would say stop drinking protein shakes. Because my experience is that women rely on them too much. And it is often, maybe not always, but it is often very disruptive to their gut health. Um, in a number of different ways, even the healthier versions, you know, even the healthier ones that don't have, you know, like gross ingredients in them, they're usually disruptive to gut health in some way. And again, often, you know, they usually don't have fiber, so that's not helpful either. Um, and replace that protein shake with whole foods and whole food fiber based proteins. Um, yeah, it'll make a world of difference. And I've talked with a lot of women who, once we really start, you know, checking into things, you know, they begin to realize, okay, actually, once I started having this protein shake, like I felt kind of gross afterward. I feel kind of yucky, and my gut isn't the, you know, I'm like gassy and bloated, and I'm not hungry for other foods. That's kind of the biggest one I come across. But what I hear mostly is, I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Hmm.
And that is just an easy fix, you know, for women
Interesting.
getting their protein.
Yeah, I
It
think
seems like it.
a lot of my listeners probably have protein shakes right now. So there are specific, are you talking more about the pre-processed ones? Or a lot of my listeners are making them with fruit and vegetables and nuts and seeds and different things in there?
Yeah, that is beautiful. I'm talking about like the protein powders in
Okay.
particular. Yeah, sorry, I
Okay.
should have maybe clarified that. But yeah, the protein powders. But
Okay.
yeah, what you're describing, a protein shake with, or that you have made with whole foods like fruits
Yeah.
and vegetables, soy milk and tofu. That's one I add regularly
Interesting.
to
Okay.
my shakes. Great source of protein. Certainly, almond butter. Your nuts and seeds,
Sure.
flaxseed, hemp
Yeah.
seeds, things like that are fantastic ways
Okay.
um, to get a natural whole food kind of
Yeah.
protein shake.
Yeah. I there are a lot of those pre-made. They're almost like milkshakes now at the grocery
Yeah,
store. Yeah, that's not an ideal breakfast. They
yeah,
taste pretty good, but they have a whole lot of sugar and other things in there.
yeah.
Um, so what and we're kind of wrapping up here. So I would love to ask you, because my podcast is called Push Pause to Heal, and I am on a mission to help normalize rest for women. I'd love to ask you, what's your favorite way to push pause?
So I do it first thing every day, actually. So when I wake up, the very first thing I do is I don't drink like coffee or tea anymore. I have like a natural peptide drink that I'll have, but I'll have that and I stretch. And I stretch for like 20 minutes. And it's just a very quiet
Yeah.
period. I mean, not that, my husband and my kids are around and maybe they're part of that, maybe not. But in general, that is how I start off my day. I'm certainly not scrolling,
Mm.
not jumping into checking emails, not, oh my God, what do I have to, like, my day will always start
Yes.
that way. And it's gotten to where if I don't have that for whatever reason, which rarely happens, like like I'm not in a happy place until I get
Don't
that
mess
in.
with mom until she did her
Yeah.
stretching.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but later on in the morning, my schedule for my day is such that, later on in the morning I'll do a workout. And then after that, like I will have a quiet time of usually about a half hour um, where I maybe do some really intentional breath work, or maybe I'm just sitting quietly noticing my breath. And often I'll write down my goals, which are the same every single day. It's just kind of a reminder. This is, my life, like what I'm working towards. So maybe a little bit of journaling. But again, that is a hugely important part of my day. If I don't have that pause, I feel very chaotic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel disorganized and I don't feel good. And it's a reminder of what is important. And it's a reset for my nervous system.
Love that. I love that. Our nervous systems are craving a reset right now these days. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, tell us if our listeners want to learn more from you or follow you, like where can they track you down?
Sure. So my Instagram is Lauren B. Callahan. B is for Brianna, my middle name. So Lauren B. Callahan. And then my website is laurenbcallahan.com.
Okay, we'll link to your website and your in the show notes. And do most of the people that work with you, are they athletes or
Not most, no. It's a good mix
yeah,
of people who would call themselves athletes and then people who would not call themselves athletes, but exercise is important to them and
sure,
some
sure.
people, yeah, all different stories. But usually women though, midlife and beyond.
Okay. Well, your story's inspiring to me. I never will plan to run over, 100 miles a day or 140 miles at a time, but I'm glad to know that there are people that can do it and really enjoy it. So
That was an
thanks for
experience
your
for sure.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
thank
your
you.
time
Thank
so
you.
much. And if for our listeners, if today's podcast resonated with you, if something came up, if you learned something new, if there's somebody in your life that you think could benefit from it, please share. Spread the healing. Lauren and I are here to help heal guts and help people, women reconnect with themselves. So thank you for your time, Lauren. It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Emily.